Your statements show that you are sympathetic to the right of Afghan people. What are you doing personally to support Afghanistan and the people of Afghanistan to address the crime which were committed in Afghanistan against the civilian population during the occupation?
I discuss these war crimes and alleged war crimes continually in public forums such as Twitter. I have given interviews to raise these matters. I have spoken to members of the Australian government about them. I continue to urge the people of Australia to support the people of Afghanistan in their right for justice. Unfortunately, until now, the majority of Australians remain uneducated or apathetic on this issue, and that saddens me deeply. It saddens me deeply that a country I call home and its citizens could so wrongly turn their back on the atrocities that were committed here against the Afghan people during the 20-year occupation. It saddens me that we have not learnt from our own mistakes which brought death and destruction. I think it is difficult for the average Australian to even begin to understand war. We are a very lucky country and we have never really experienced war at home in Australia, except for briefly during World War II. And Australia is called the lucky country because we have so many blessings. But these blessings have blinded us to the pain and need of others. People facing daily injustice and fighting against tyranny. I knew nothing myself of war before I went to countries such as Palestine and Afghanistan. I hope to educate people in Australia and around the world as to the truth on the ground here in Afghanistan. With this truth comes responsibility.
Before the war, Australia knew almost nothing about Afghanistan except what was betrayed through the Western press. In your opinion, what is the viewpoint of the average Australian about Afghanistan now?
Fortunately, I do not think that the viewpoint of the average Australian has changed much over the last 40-odd years. This is the result of the dishonesty of journalists who report from Afghanistan because they do not report the reality as it exists on the ground. Many journalists are only interested in sensationalizing the issues, or even worse, fabricating pure propaganda. In addition, there are certain sections of the Afghan community in Australia who do not represent the majority view. Yet it is these people who have a voice in Australian press, who are held by refugee action groups to represent all Afghans and who are active in spreading Islamic propaganda. It is my hope by giving these interviews that I can speak about more than politics. I can speak about Afghan culture and customs and traditions, a country that is steeped in a complicated and, at times for me, an unfathomable history. A country which is proudly Islamic. It is a country and its people, the truth that I hope that exists here, that the governments of the world and the people of Australia should have a better knowledge of.
The American university where you served as a professor was closed in Afghanistan after the victory of Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. You have good ties with Kabul and have the experience of working in universities around the world in Islamic countries, particularly in Islamic countries. Would you like to advise the Taliban to reopen the university? Would you like to advise the US to reopen this university in Kabul again?
I support any and all education for Afghan students, both male and female. To my knowledge, the IEA are using the facilities of the former AUAAF to continue educating students. The university is now called the International University of Afghanistan. The US and non-Islamic countries are unable to have any role in the education process of Islamic students. However, they do have a role in terms of providing funding. When the IEA took over Afghanistan in August last year, Afghanistan's central bank had deposits greater than $7 billion in the New York Federal Reserve Bank. The US froze these funds, which are not legally, morally, or ethically theirs to take. Biden announced in February of this year that he would split these funds, giving half to the Afghan people, but the other half will go to the victims of 9/11. The United States has crossed another red line in weaponizing global finance. What Biden is proposing is not justice for 9/11 families. It is theft of public funds from an impoverished nation already on the brink of starvation and famine, brought on by the United States' disastrous withdrawal. In addition, other nations and NGOs need to support Afghanistan to assist in its reconstruction. Those countries that occupied Afghanistan and the ANDSF destroyed vital educational infrastructure. These actions are against the international rules of combat, and compensation must be paid for rebuilding and restarting schools all around Afghanistan. Hundreds of schools were destroyed in indiscriminate bombing of civilian areas. Education is for the people of Afghanistan, and those people who support Afghan people before, they know that they need this support more than ever. International sanctions, theft of funds, blocking of trade, all of these actions are a form of collective punishment applied to the Afghan people. This is neither an ethical or moral form of addressing the issue.
You are an academic figure. Would it be better for you to serve the Afghan students in the education sector rather than putting efforts in the political field? What is your plan in the future?
I'm not a politician, an analyst, nor do I have any specialist training in this field. My plan is to continue to support the Afghan people as they strive to recover from 40 years of war and occupation. I have certain health issues that mean that I can never return to work permanently for the rest of my life. However, I will continue to do what I can and fulfill my Islamic obligation, inshallah. I would urge any academics who feel they have something to contribute to a country to consider coming to Afghanistan. Afghan educators know the rewards of teaching Afghan students. Afghan students are curious, intelligent, and highly motivated. I urge educators to consider returning to help develop the future of Afghanistan. Education is extolled in us by the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the Holy Quran. It is a basic human right, and despite the way Afghans have been treated in the past, they are human, and they deserve to be treated with humanity.